Hey guys, what's up? This is Sean Ogle of Location Rebel, and I have a really special treat. Today, as a Location Rebel case study, I get to talk to one of my near dear friends that I've known for, God, like 15 years probably. And she's just recently made the transition to working for herself, becoming a Location Rebel, and so it's a really fun story. So before we go any further, Katie Wright, now going by Catherine, I knew
Yeah,
her as Katie, but thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me today.
of course. I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much for asking me to do this.
So the quick backstory: Katie and I have known each other since middle school. I mean, we went to
Yep.
middle school, we went to high school together, we went to college together,
Yeah.
and we would see each other in Portland off and on. But it was earlier this summer. It was like June or July. We ran into each other. We went and got drinks or hung out, and she was saying she's like, I just got back from this epic trip. I was in Europe, and I need to figure out kind of what to do with my life because you left your job. So anyway, that's a lot of information. Let's back up to last year. What were you doing? And then what was the big adventure that you took here earlier this year?
Yeah. So I was working in clinical research, running oncology trials at Oregon Health and Science University, this big research hospital in Portland. And I had been working there for about a year, and it was not going well at all.
Weren't real
It
happy.
It was just, it wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
I had been working in public health research before that, and then the grants had sort of run out. But clinical research was going to be this sort of, really good thing because it was stable, lots of money. But it was not for me.
Yeah.
It was frightening how off it was. So I basically did that for a year and just tried to make it to a year. But in that time, I was saving up money because I knew that maybe I'd want to travel somewhere or do something, but I wasn't really sure what to do.
Yeah.
So then I decided to quit my job and walk the Camino de Santiago in Spain. Um,
I still remember we sat down for happy hour. It was probably almost exactly a year ago, maybe a
yeah,
little longer, and we're getting happy hour, and you're like, "Oh, by the way, I'm quitting my job and I'm gonna go walk across Spain." And it was
yeah,
like, "That's awesome and terrifying, but that's awesome."
yeah.
Um,
It just seemed like the perfect thing to do. It was like, let's just go pack my bag and just head out. So I booked
well,
a
and
flight.
weren't you were only supposed to originally be there? Like you were gonna do the walk, and then you were like, "I don't know what's gonna happen." So how long did you end up being in Europe?
So I was in Europe for 9 months. So I walked the Camino, 500 miles, 6 weeks. It was, just ridiculous. It was great fun. And I just kept traveling. So I ended up going to, I think it was 9 countries,
Wow.
worked my way just on organic farms. And I worked at a yoga retreat and whatchamacallit, a luxury bed and breakfast in Italy. Just ridiculous things that you would never think that you would be doing, you
It's
know?
it sounds like the kind of thing. It's like a lifetime of adventures, all in like a 9 month period of time.
Yeah, and it was totally just like, let's just do this, why not? And once I understood that I could kind of find a way in terms of working on farms to trade my time for a place to stay and food, it was just everything just opened up because I could save a ton of money. I wasn't out there spending a bunch. So,
Totally.
yeah.
So you had that adventure. You decided to come back, and
Yeah, it was time to come back.
so I've got to imagine like you get done with that, and you don't have a job at this point. You've just had like the most incredible experience ever. It has to be kind of like a confusing time a little bit. It's like what do I want to do
Yeah.
with my life? Do I want to travel more? And so what was that like?
So it was really hard. I had been in Peace Corps right after college, and when I had gotten back from Cameroon, I was sort of thinking that that would have been a rough transition. And for me, returning back to the States after 9 months in Europe was much more difficult than a year in West Africa. I
Yeah.
think a big part of it was that adventure was gone, and that
Yeah.
this city, coming back to Portland, yeah, it's a beautiful city. It's great. There's so much to do here, but nothing had really changed, and I had changed so much. And I was at a really down point for a couple of weeks, about a month. I'd come home right before 4th of July, and I was just sort of, doing little odd jobs, trying to make money, nothing really serious. And then I went to this travel meetup that Nomadic Matt was having in Portland,
Hmm.
and I met all these other travelers, and then we bumped into each other.
Right.
And it was just like, oh my gosh, I have to do something.
There's
You
this
know,
kind of
this,
whole world of opportunity, and here's all these people that are kind of, doing the travel thing and making it work. And
yeah, yeah. And everyone sort of had this energy of like, you can do whatever, you can work from wherever, you can find this location independence. And once I had sort of gotten into that, um, I started looking more back at kind of your things and Location Rebel. And
Mhm.
that was sort of when like the gears started turning and I was really focusing on what could I do instead of floundering, you know?
Yeah. And so, I mean, that was the time we bumped into each other. I hadn't seen you since you first told me you were leaving. We had talked a little bit online, but not a whole lot. And then I had my sale, our July sale, like the next week or something. And I saw your name come through, and I was like, Katie, like you should have told me that you were going to buy this program. And we went and we met for coffee afterwards. And I said,
Yeah.
hey, like, I'm excited. Like, it's the investment in it is one of the things that keeps people motivated to actually follow through with it.
Mhm.
So you joined, and tell me what happened after you started working through the program and what the last few months have looked like.
Yeah, so once I got into it, I was a bit overwhelmed by all of the just the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Because you see people that have been successful and I was really excited and I was just wondering what was going to happen next. So I started kind of poking around in the forum a bit and it was sort of fun just to kind of see where people were at.
Yeah.
And what I liked about it initially was that people are on different levels. So you've got folks that have been in there for a while and they're just kind of churning through and they're passing along information, giving feedback. And then there's also newbies like me,
Yeah.
um, who have no idea what they're doing. Maybe
They're
they've
still trying to
never.
figure out what their thing is going to be.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember filling out the form that you had sent something about your business background. And my only business that I could ever think of was like selling Girl Scout cookies
Yeah.
and like a lemonade stand. And I was like, gosh, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
But it was neat because there, with the blueprints, you can kind of work your way through things and sort of pick and choose what might work for you, and
Yep.
then just sort of go from there. Um,
So how did you make so you were kind of like, I don't have any business background. You're starting to meet some people. You're starting to get an idea of what's out there and what's possible. So how
yeah.
did you end up making your first dollar online?
Yeah, so my first dollar was through SEO writing.
Hmm.
I mean, that was all thanks to Location Rebel because I had never even made it really a website. I mean, I'd have, like travel blogs, things like that, but nothing like an actual website. And buying a domain, that, I had no
Yeah.
idea. So that to me, I mean, once I finally got my website set up and started putting work samples, I was able to get my first job. And that was through another Location Rebel member through the
Yeah.
forum, because I just didn't feel like I was ready to just go and hustle and to
Yeah.
say, hey, I'm going to write you SEO when I really didn't even know what SEO was.
Yeah.
And I think my first payment was like $40 or something.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. Like to see that money come into PayPal, it was crazy,
It's like, I can actually do this. It's
Yeah.
like, you probably did it from like your home office or a Starbucks or something. And
Yeah. I mean, and what was really great was that when I was writing those SEO articles, I was able to go on a road trip with a friend across the country. So we drove from Portland, Oregon to Baltimore, and I was actually writing SEO articles during that
you
trip.
never told me that. That's kind of cool. I didn't
It
know
was
that.
great. Like, yeah, I remember I wrote one when we were in Minnesota, and then another one in Chicago, and it was just like, and to me, that was such a big part of why I wanted to keep pursuing some sort of business, was that the idea that you can say yes to a road trip, or you can say, yes to going to San Francisco on a whim,
Totally.
because you can work from anywhere, and it really gives you that freedom that I feel like is just so
I
important
mean, I
to
think
me
that's
now.
without a doubt more important than making tons and tons of money or anything. Like the most important part of Location Rebel and this lifestyle is the freedom that it gives you to do the things that you want to do.
Well, and
And
even today, I mean, just even being in my hometown, I was able to, wake up, work a few hours, I'm taking French right now, and then, go to the grocery store, have a coffee with a friend, and then get back to work. And so, no day is the same. And that is the beauty in this, even if you're not gallivanting all over Europe or whatever. So,
oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's the big thing is if you want to go gallivant around through Europe, you
Hmm.
can. And you're actually like, now that you've got a little bit of a business, you're making some money, you're actually going to go back to Europe here pretty soon. Is that right?
Yeah, so next month I'm moving to France. Yeah.
So is
So
this a permanent move, or is this a let's just do it for a while and see how it goes?
yeah, I mean, hopefully it'll be for a good time or for a good while, you
Yeah.
know. So we'll see how it goes. So yeah.
And so do you foresee any issues? So basically, you started with the writing, and then we talked about this a little bit, the sense that it's like once people know that you've got some of these skills that you've learned and you're actually working for yourself, like work has kind of a way of just finding you, and people, want to help. And it's like, oh, I need someone that can do this. And, that was kind of the experience you've had a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So once I kind of got into SEO, people would be asking, "What are you doing? Like, how are you making money these days?" And I'd say, "Well, got into this writing, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning a lot about it." And then I've been able to work for a software company because I was able to use some of my SEO work with them,
Yeah.
which has now turned into social marketing and hopefully sales in the EU since I'll be moving. So it's just all the connections that you have. Like everything just starts to fall in line,
The universe just kind of conspires to help you. And
Yeah, I mean it sounds a little hippy dippy, but it's
hey, we're
it's
from we're from
we're
Oregon. I mean,
from
that's kind of
Eugene.
the
We're from the like hippie capital. But it's true, like you just have to open yourself up to possibilities. And I think if I think there's a lot kind of going around about following your passion and following what you love. And I mean, I don't absolutely love SEO, but what SEO brought me was an ability to learn a new skill. And also, it just showed me that I can do it, that I didn't think I'd ever be able to make a website because it is really complex at first.
yeah.
But you can figure it out. Just you can Google your way out of it. You can ask questions in the forum. It all just comes together. I think you just have to make the efforts for it to kind of fall in line.
Yeah, I totally agree. So just to wrap things up, there's gonna be a lot of people that are watching this that are probably on the fence. Is location right for me? Like, I'm not sure. Like, I live in Australia, or or whatever. What advice would you give to the person that's on the fence about this?
Well, I would just say that when you get into Location Rebel, it connects you with people that are in the mindset the same as you, right? Or something that you want to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing with Location Rebel is that I am in a mastermind group and we meet every week. So on Sundays we do calls, and it's been really helpful because those people are also moving forward and they want to have and find location independence. And so those connections and having that sort of influence is really positive. And I think trying to do this on your own, I mean, yeah, it can be done, but it's like Sean has taken all this time and he's already been through it on his own. And I think that if you have people on your side and you have someone that's already been through it, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Definitely. And I
So
think that's one of the, you mentioned it early in the call, is like you get in and you've got all these people in all different places in the world and all different places in their business. So you have kind of the people that are mentoring. So the people that have been doing it for a while, that like you found someone who gave you some work, and people that can give you advice on how to go. But then you also have people that are just starting out that you can turn to and either, form mastermind groups with or use for accountability. And so it's really kind of the best of both worlds. Like you get the mentorship, you get the accountability, you get the camaraderie, and you get that sense of, I'm not doing this by myself. I'm not having to
yeah.
reinvent the wheel. And I think that's kind of a unique thing. And that's one of the things I love about this community.
Yeah, and I mean, I felt like once I put in what was it, 497, it
Yeah.
was like, I am gonna make that money online, and pay that back in terms of, what that feels like to generate your own income from that. And it's really encouraging to have, because if you have any sort of uncertainties about what your a pitch letter is or how often you should be sending emails to an SEO company, you
Yeah.
can just put that in the forum, or people will check out your work samples. And it's pretty cool just to see how people sort of help each other out and how things sort of just come together. So,
Totally. Well, I
yeah.
cannot be more excited. I mean, this has all been in the last like 4 months that you've made this transition from coming back, being clueless about really what you were going to do for work, and now already you've been able to say, you know what, I'm making enough money. I know I can support myself. I'm going to go back to Europe, which is kind of where you want to be and what you want to do. And
Yeah, absolutely.
to me,
I'm
that's like the
so
most inspiring story. So
Thanks, Sean. Well, thank you so much for, I mean, it's interesting because with our friendship, we've kind of gone through these stages of life, and it's been cool to see Location Rebel and sort of what it's become.
yeah,
And so, yeah, thank you so much. I'm just so excited and happy just to be part of the community and to see and to see where it goes, in the future, because you're still part of it. It's like even once you figure out, or I haven't figured everything out, but I know that I'll have Location Rebel sort of on my side, even when I'm in Europe. It's going to be a really important resource for me when I'm in that transition.
totally.
So,
Well, at some point, I'm going to make it back to France and I'm going to do a Location
yep.
Rebel meetup. And I expect you to take a train to wherever I end up doing
That
it.
sounds great. Yeah, we will drink wine and eat cheese and
Perfect.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much again for being here and doing this. And looking forward to seeing where you take things from here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Sean.